this means so much to me is I started my rescue a few years ago, and the first dogs that I ever pulled came from the Lewisburg Animal Shelter. And I tried to keep close ties with them in the beginning, and then shortly after I started pulling from them,
be professional and just be okay with the city traffic, don't impede anything because we don't want to run into any trouble, because we don't want them to be able to use anything against us, because that's not why we're here.
Amen.
So brings me to the point why we're here. 13 dogs were put down in Lewisburg Animal Control's care, 9 of which had somebody on the way to rescue them and give them a home. They had commitments and sponsorships. Multiple times through Tommy Ingram, Mayor Barbara Woods, and the Lewisburg Animal Control officers, there was a lack of communication, it seems. There were people that were supposed to be there to pick up these dogs, and they were put down. There's no reason for it to be senseless. We want the city to answer for its actions. I mean, that's why we're here. They won't give us an answer. They won't give us an answer as to why they did it. They keep giving a different answer every single time. We want more transparency in the actions and the Lewisburg handles their dogs on a daily basis. The part that doesn't make any sense to me, Tommy Ingram has gone on record, and per his city code, they're able to have 20 dogs in their care at any given time. They had 28. We're not asking for a no-kill shelter. We know that is a very difficult thing to do, especially when it's funded by the government and by taxpayer dollars. What we do want to know is why 13 dogs were put down when 9 of them are going to be out the door. That would have opened 5 free spaces in the facility. It makes absolutely no sense why they would put those dogs down. The majority of them were puppies that were going to be rescued. And I'm joking up talking about it a little bit, I'm sorry. The reason why this means so much to me, the first dog I ever pulled with the help of my director of Lewisburg Relations on the PBATN board, helped me rescue the very first dog in our rescue from Lewisburg Animal Control. I've seen the conditions in the facility. They are less than par. Dogs sit on top of dogs, on top of their waist. They are hosed down through the gate that they stay in. It's just not good. This isn't the first time it's happened either. Back in October of 2011, they did what Tommy Ingram had called this time, but the then David Orr, city manager, also referred to it as a cleanup. That's how they're referring to these dogs, and that's how they think about them, cleaning them up, because they don't want to spend the money on them. Another thing that really bothers me, when they put dogs down, they're not making money, but they're saying they're struggling for funds to run the facility and even keep it together. They had $71 for every 9 of those dogs that went to their sponsorship. They could have made money off of that. That also included their spaying and neutering. So there's no reason why this should have happened. And I'm not a very good public speaker, so I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Mary Rain. She's running for U.S. State Representative.
The first thing I want to do is thank you all for being here. I think one of the biggest things that we can all do to fix this problem is to show up. That is so important, because so many people don't like the way things are happening, and they don't like the way our animals are being treated, but they stay at home, and you can't fix it on the couch. You got to show up. So I just want to give you guys a big hand. The other thing that we've got to do is work together. It's going to be a fight, but it's a fight that we can win. And if we all work together, and that's all the animal lovers, it's for the animals. It's for them. And we all just need to come together and to find a focus and to make it all happen. In Lewisburg with this shelter, and in the state with all the programs that we need for animals.
That's right.
The way that I got interested in politics is this spring, or actually in January, I put together a stay and neuter legislation. It was modeled like what they have in Delaware. Because in the Northeast, they don't have all these stray animals. And so I started calling people and saying, why? Why do they not have stray animals in Hampshire and in Delaware? And it came down to one thing, a stay and neuter program that was accessible to all people. And I put this together. A wonderful representative in Nashville, Jeannie Richardson, and a state senator, Beverly Marrero, sponsored this bill. It went into committee. It put a $3 surcharge on a rabies shot. We have about 900,000 rabies shots in the state a year, so you can see the fund grows to a very nice fund in a year. When the fund would get up to about $500,000, we could start using it for spay and neuter. Each person in the state could have a pet spayed and neutered at a participating vet for only $10. This similar program, implemented in Delaware, had cut within 10 years their pet overpopulation in half. And we need to hold our elected officials responsible to get this stuff done.
Yep.
When I was driving home from work, I found this little kitten in the road, and someone had just tossed it out the window. It lost an eye, and I took her to the vet. She's going to be okay. But the point is, too, that things like this happen. People abuse animals, and our elected officials need to be laws that are not like a little slap on the hand for that. People need to be held responsible when they abuse animals. It's just wrong.
That's right.
One thing that I encourage you with before I leave is just everyone get involved. Get involved in politics. Get involved in local government. If you see someone that's doing something you don't like, support their opponent and make sure they know that these issues matter. They matter. They matter to us, and we are a force in this town. Terry Cox up next.
Yay!
I'm not as good as these other two. I have to have this because if I see a cat, I'll be like, oh, there's a cat. So I have to have a paper to go from. I am Terry, Gone to the Dogs on the page. Woo! For those of you, thank you all so much for being here. By just showing up today, you proved that our community's voice is being heard and that together we can make change happen. Thank you, Ronnie, Jackie, Rachel, and all the board members of Pit Bull Awareness for making this happen. Man, we need this so bad. To honor the dogs who were needlessly killed and continue to add fuel to the flame that has been lit under the gatekeepers of this community, and make sure they know that we will continue to hold our local government accountable.
That's right.
To the wishes of the tax-paying citizens of this county. I am here today to hold accountable those that have accepted that responsibility and privilege of bringing about change in this community. And I am here today standing with all of you to be a voice for the voiceless. And I am so proud today that you guys are all here for the dogs that were lost and to help Lewisburg uplift so that we can figure out a way to treat these animals as amazing. You are all here today. The entire community of able-bodied people wanting to work together to help accomplish change together. That's who you are. Our community is desperate for leadership that doesn't blame, shift, and finger point. We need leadership that won't intimidate, giving spirit, and devalue its volunteers.
Yep.
Won't allow its employees to do it either. Woo!
Woo!
Started a lifestyle with volunteerism, one to help the dogs in the shelter day in and day out, one that helps the city of Lewisburg build revenue and uplift the city to pet lovers around the world because they only euthanize aggressive or very hurt dogs. It is a daunting task, met with many obstacles, and I work with volunteers who dedicate over 100 hours every week doing whatever it takes to make a difference, to make a change. Okay, all it takes is leadership. Well, I've been getting the dogs out. I was promised change would be made in that facility, a promise that has not been kept.
I remember.
I did not hold anyone accountable. It was muddy. Who was accountable? I didn't even know. People ask me, how can I stand to see those sweet little faces every week behind the bars, faces of dogs that have no control over their predicament, And yet, they have brought together a community of volunteers to work on their behalf. The truth is, I can't stand to see those sweet new faces there every week. And that's why I'm here, and that's why you're here. It's time for a change, and it's time for accountability. By the way, don't you believe the hand-wringers when they tell you it can't be done. The volunteers who work with me every week in and week out are proof positive that a low or no-kill shelter in this area is possible. To make all of our life easier, yours and mine, with less unwanted, talk to your neighbors and your friends. Advocate. Advocate spay and neuter. Every day, support your legislators' efforts like Mary Brady. Support them. Okay, last week's killing was sadly a direct byproduct of old school thinking that viewed media coverage as a threat. Mr. Ingram was so upset when he called me. He was so upset that the media had been there on Tuesday when he returned my call on Wednesday morning because I had called the City Hall to ask why there was no one at the shelter when they had promised to be there. A transport was there to pick up an Aussie. There were people there, potential adopters, who were supposed to be there from 8 to 10. They promised someone that they would be there from 8 to 10. They weren't there. I called City Hall. Mr. Ingram called me back. He personally told me several times in several ways that I would not be at all happy with the level of cooperation I would be getting because of that media coming to town. And I just want to clear this up, too. The animal control officer said it was most convenient for them to have that woman pick those dogs up at 3:30. They were the dogs who were going to be left after the big adoption push, which of course couldn't happen because animal control had been ordered to a meeting at City Hall. She was going to pick up any dog left who had been scheduled for use that day to get them out the door, like she had so many times before. When I talked to Mr. Ingram at 10:40 a.m. Wednesday morning when he called me back, he said that animal control had left the meeting with him and said they would now be at the shelter. He knew that was an appointed time for pickup for those dogs because I told him in the 10 to 15-minute conversation I had with him. I said I hoped surely he didn't mean he was going to kill those dogs because there was a commitment on them. All of them had fun for, and the animal control officer had agreed on the pickup time in 2 conversations with the woman who was going to come to get them. She had contacted me at 7:15 saying she had spoke with the animal control officer just then, and he confirmed 3:30 was still good. But when I told Mr. Ingram that, he told me that if the media would not have been there, they wouldn't have had to attend the meeting, animal control officers, and not be at the shelter, and went into, I wouldn't like the level of cooperation that we were going to start getting from here on out.
Wow.
Yeah. So the animal control officer was not planning on killing any dogs at 7:15. At 11 o'clock, a volunteer went by the city vet's office where they killed the dogs at. Both animal control trucks were there. What do you think happened between 7:15 and 11 o'clock? The meeting. Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm not happy. He needs to be held accountable, by the way.
Yes, he does.
I would like to remind you, we are the change. We decide what does and doesn't happen in our community. Government should be responsive to the citizens, but we are responsible for holding leaders accountable to us. I don't want those sweet souls to have died in vain. Last week, these changes talked about have to come. If anyone asks for help for forward movement, I challenge you all. Help in any way you can. Be a doer. But if you are not called to action in the next few days, if Mr. Ingram is not held accountable for killing these dogs, ask why. Why? Hold the city and any other group who makes promises of change accountable.